It's my DraftKings hockey picks for Monday, March 9th, and we're starting right now. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Holkamaniacs YouTube channel. If this is your first time here and you want to become a more profitable DraftKings player, start now by subscribing to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything along the way. If you're already a Holkamaniac, you know what time it is. Smash that like button. But if you do want to get into that drawing for 20 DK bucks, make sure you stay until the end of the video so you know exactly what to drop into the comments. This is the data sheet you've probably heard of if you are a member of my Twitch community and my Discord channel. This is something we walk through live on stream each and every weekday starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So we'll talk through some of my top stacks, game environments, some of the top goaltenders on the slate as well. I just found it easier to do this as a community where we can kind of walk through this entire sheet together. Again, if you do want access to this, it is available to all of my Twitch subscribers and posted daily in the Discord. Holkamaniacs, let's get you those picks for today. And let's start with the center position. I do think that Mark Scheifele against Arizona, I'm sure we'll talk about this on stream, but I do really like this Winnipeg and Arizona game overall to have a ton of pace. So I think that just starting with Scheifele at 6,400, really nice price discount off of someone like McKinnon. Of course, you can pay up for McKinnon today if you can find the value, a guy that can kind of make his way through any matchup. He'll be against LA today. Still will grab a decent amount of ownership on a roughly smaller slate than we have typically. So I do think that Scheifele is the guy, if you did want to pay down off of McKinnon, makes a ton of sense. 99th percentile Corsi 4 over the last 15 days. We talk about Corsi a ton at the center position and how important it is overall. So nice to see Scheifele in the 99th percentile there. 99th percentile time on ice as well over that same time period. So someone that's going to get a ton of run, really drive the play for Winnipeg. If Winnipeg has some success, we'll be shocked if Scheifele isn't a huge part of that. 82nd percentile shots plus blocks, at least a reasonable peripheral floor there for Mark Scheifele over the last 15 days as well. 80th percentile shot prediction, not elite by any means for that price tag, but I do think the matchup is strong enough to fire at Scheifele today. Winnipeg does have tied for the first on the slate in power play goal per minute over the last 10, so that power play has been clicking lately, so I definitely want to get access against Arizona overall. Arizona highest Corsi against teams. So we might see a little bit of a floor increase for a guy like Scheifele, who isn't the highest volume shooter kind of in that price range typically, but I do think that this could be a spot where you could hit the higher end of that expectation. If we did want to pay down a little bit in this same game, what about a guy like Derek Stepan? And I get it, we haven't been targeting him a ton lately just because he hasn't had that role on the power play that we've used to been seeing for Stepan and for the Coyotes. 4K on DraftKings, I just think he's a little bit underpriced for this really strong game environment. 97th percentile blocks, so nice to get access to a guy that at the center position could still get you the block bonus and is someone that's still going to log a ton of minutes in this spot. And I do think 92nd percentile Corsi 4, that's something we haven't seen for Stepan in quite some time. So I think that, like I said, he just might be underpriced. So if we ends up kind of getting back to his peripheral ways where I get at least a nice floor from Stepan, I could see his price creeping up over the next few weeks if he keeps this up. 90th percentile shots plus blocks over the last 15 days. Pretty strong overall. 73rd percentile shot prediction. I'd like to see that be a little bit higher, but I think it's a reasonable value spot. Like I said, against Winnipeg, highest high danger chances against on the slate. So if Stepan ends up getting there at 4K, could be a nice way to get in some of these other studs on today's slate. Highest pace game on the slate overall by a pretty large margin. So I want access to this Arizona and Winnipeg game overall, and I think that Stepan and Scheifele would be some cornerstones for me, at least at the center position. Let's move on to wing. This is a position where I like to pay down historically. Again, we talked about McKinnon at the center position. At wing, of course, if you find the value to get up to a guy like Alexander Ovechkin, I definitely think that he's another guy that can still get there in any slate. But I wanted to focus on the value today at wing because I do think it's a really strong slate for winger value. So we're going to start with Adrian Kempe for the Kings. Tough matchup against Colorado, I understand that. 3,500 on DraftKings is a great price tag for this guy. 45 on FanDuel. He does lead the slate in my proprietary trends. Again, this is something that I make available to all my Twitch subscribers. It's posted along with the data sheet in the Discord. In terms of Kempe, 87th percentile shot attempts over the last 15 days, 85th percentile shot prediction, and 84th percentile shots plus blocks. Again, we talked about Stepan. I just think Kempe is too cheap at this point. He is playing in the top 6 at 3,500. It's just a cheap wing with the kind of surprising block equity overall. 57th percentile, that's a pretty reasonable number for a winger at that price point. We don't normally get a ton of blocks from them overall. That's why we're paying down. So I actually really like the price point for Kempe. It's always going to kind of raise my eyebrows a little bit when I see someone like that hit a ton of trends. And if we wanted to kind of go a different direction, what about Nicholas Roy for the Vegas Golden Knights at Edmonton today? 2,500. So Stone Min on DraftKings. He has 3,300 on FanDuel. So 96th percentile Corsi for over the last 15 days, 90th percentile shots plus blocks over that same time period. Top 6 forward, Stone Min price. You get access to a guy like Carlson, a guy like Pacioretty. He did have 11 peripherals over his last 2 games. So shots plus blocks. Roy's the guy that can give you that nice floor. But again, with the guys he's skating with and getting kind of a cheap access to that second power play unit who has been not great since we lost Stone to injury, but I do think that Roy at that price point is still one that I might not be able to ignore today at Edmonton. Number 2 Corsi against team over the last 25 games on the slate. So it could be a nice spot for Roy at min price. Open up some salary for some of these studs. I will give an honorable mention to my boy Zach Kassian, 3,100 on DraftKings, 37 on FanDuel. Edmonton won with Connor McDavid. I didn't know if we needed to highlight much more than that. Someone that has performed well with McDavid in the past at a really nice price point. So again, winger in terms of value, absolutely loaded today. Let's talk about defense, and I do think this is a position where you can pay up, really kind of target those peripheral floors, but also ceiling for some of these guys in terms of power play usage. So John Carlson, Washington at Buffalo today. Not an elite spot in terms of ceiling and peripherals, but I do think this power play unit could have a ton of success today. Carlson, 6,600 on both sites, and I do think 94th percentile shot prediction is something that I'm willing to pay up for today. 90th percentile time on ice over the last 15. 90th percentile power play time on us over the last 15 as well. So I do think that he's someone, again, it's going to be used on the man advantage so much that just getting access to Alexander Ovechkin for a cheaper price tag, sign me up for that. 0.40 R value. That's a drastically high correlation in comparison to some of these other guys that we have available on today's slate. So if Alexander Ovechkin gets there, it's probably going to be John Carlson on the power play that gets him over for that one-timer that he's made so famous. So I like Carlson quite a bit today. He's hitting a bunch of trends as well. At Buffalo, second on the slate in terms of their penalty kill goals against per minute. So I think it's an awesome spot for the Washington Capitals. If you wanted to pivot away from Carlson, maybe save a little bit of salary, you could probably roster both of these guys with the value we have at winger. But what about Neil Pionk against this Arizona Coyotes team? Again, targeting this very high-paced game. 5,200 on DraftKings, probably a little bit overpriced, but on just a 5-game slate, I do like Pionk quite a bit. 95th percentile shots plus blocks over the last 15 days. 94th percentile shot prediction, and he is going to give us a 94th percentile Corsi for, so a little bit of upside there. You could argue that his peripherals are pretty comparable to Carlson's, but I do think that both these guys do have a ton of upside, which I think on this slate we're probably going to need overall. So 85th percentile power play shots as well. Again, another team that I think could have some success on the power play. We already talked about Scheifele, and the biggest thing, just tied for first on the slate in power play goals per minute over the last 10. Two teams that I think could have a ton of success on the man advantage. These guys are going to be those cornerstone pieces that I'm going to want to have in those power play stacks. Let's touch on the goalie position quickly. We will touch on this a lot more on Twitch shortly, kind of walking through that data sheet. But if I had to choose one guy today, I think it's going to be the Colorado Avalanche goaltender. Whoever that ends up being, make sure and check to see who is confirmed the starter at the point of this recording. We don't know that just yet, but I do like Francouz if it ends up being him. 8,100 on DraftKings, 86 on FanDuel, paying up a little bit. 80th percentile team win percentage over the last month, 80th percentile Vegas money line. That's not elite by any means, but this is where kind of the pieces fit together for me in terms of things that I really value at the goalie position. I think they're a reasonable favorite to win. I think that's pretty clear. But also, Colorado leads the slate in fewest high danger chances against. Just 18.3% of those chances are going to be in the high danger scoring areas. And also, the LA Kings, number 1 percentage of low danger chances for. So I think that could be a nice spot for whoever ends up starting at Colorado to be in a spot to get a lot of saves, but also just not give up a ton of goals in this position where it kind of fits together, right? If you want to learn even more about how to be a profitable DraftKings player, start now by hitting the subscribe icon in the bottom right-hand corner. But come hang out with us live on Twitch, probably live right now, breaking down this slate even deeper. So come ask some questions, come hang out with us. And if you do want that drawing for 20 DK bucks, I want to know your top stack for today's DraftKings slate. Make sure you drop that in the comments. I'll see you guys soon.